A very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us start the news bulletin with the headlines. Prime Minister Modi's campaign blitz in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh, rallies in Ambikapur, Shahdol and Gwalior today. Congress President Rahul Gandhi to also campaign in Madhya Pradesh. In Rajasthan, Congress releases first list of candidates. Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot to contest. BJP's third list for Telangana polls released. Severe cyclonic storm Gaja makes landfall in Tamil Nadu with heavy rains and high-speed winds accompanying it. Expected to weaken into cyclonic storm in few hours. Over 75,000 people evacuated from low-lying areas. Electricity supply hit in some districts. Employers to be refunded salaries for 7 out of 26 weeks of maternity leave given to women earning above 15,000 rupees a month. Government steps in to assist after complaints that companies were reluctant to hire pregnant women or were firing women employees. UK Prime Minister Theresa May vows to fight for a draft Brexit deal after a spate of resignations of her ministers, says that she will see the deal through with the EU. Faces a no confidence threat from her own party MP. And India reached semi-finals of the ICC Women's World T20 Cricket Tournament, beat Ireland by 52 runs in the group match at Guyana. Shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth and Sameer Verma enter quarter-finals of the Hong Kong Open Tournament. First up, let's get you all the news from the 5 election-bound states. First up, news from MP, where Prime Minister Modi will be in the state for the BJP's election campaign for the state that votes on the 28th of this month. He will address 2 rallies in Shahdol and in Gwalior today. Now, this will be the beginning of a series of rallies leading up to the end of the campaign in the state. He will be addressing more rallies, mostly on alternative days. On Sunday, he will address public meetings in Chhindwara and in Indore. The Prime Minister will again visit Madhya Pradesh on Tuesday and address public meetings in Jhabua and Rewa districts. And 3 days later, that is on Saturday, he will be back in Mandsaur and Chhatarpur districts. And next Sunday, he will be in Vidisha and Jabalpur. Before his Madhya Pradesh visit today, the Prime Minister will be in Chhattisgarh for a public rally in Ambikapur for the second phase of polling in the state to be held on 20th of November. And BJP Chief Amit Shah will also hold rallies in Madhya Pradesh today. He is slated to hold 3 public meetings in Tikamgarh, Saugar and Damoh. On Thursday, he reached out to the tribals in the state. He informed them about the several welfare measures being taken by the party-led government at the centre and in the state. Speaking at a rally in Barwani, which comprises 4 tribal-dominated assembly seats, he criticized Rahul Gandhi, saying that the Congress chief was suffering from Modi phobia. He claimed the Congress had done no good for the tribals, but the BJP sanctioned the Indore-Manmad rail route for them. Amit Shah also addressed the rallies in Shahjahanpur, Barwani and in Ujjain.
हमारे यहाँ तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी का नेता तय है। हम श्री शिवराज सिंह चौहान के नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ने वाले। ये भी तय है कि शिवराज सिंह आज से 6 साल तक प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में मध्य प्रदेश का विकास करने वाले। मेरा जरा कांग्रेस के सभी लोगों से पूछना है, भैया ये बताओ कि आपका नेता कौन है? किसके नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ने वाले हो? अरे यार, मैं राष्ट्रीय नहीं पूछ रहा, मध्य प्रदेश का पूछ रहा हूं।
And also, Congress President Rahul Gandhi will be in Madhya Pradesh today. He is slated to hold 3 rallies there today. The rallies will be in Sagar, Sioni, Mandla and Shadol. News from poll-bound Rajasthan, where the Congress party late on Thursday night released its first list of 152 candidates for the 7th of December Rajasthan Assembly elections. Former Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has been fielded from Sardarpura and State Party President Sachin Pilot from Tonk seat. Former National Commission for Women Chief Girija Vyas will contest from Udaipur, while Senior Party Leader C.P. Joshi will be the party's nominee from Natwara Assembly seat. Former BJP MP Harish Meena, who had switched over to the Congress party, has been fielded from Diolye Uneria, and the party's Central Election Committee General Secretary Mukul Vasnik released the first list after hectic deliberations with senior party leaders and the leadership. And staying with the Rajasthan, an election commission team will be in the state on a 2-day visit to review poll preparations. The election commission team will reach Udaipur. Chief Election Commissioner O.P. Rawat, along with Commissioners Sunil Arora and Ashok Lavasa, will meet various stakeholders to review the preparations for the 7th of December polls. 118 candidates have filed their nominations on 88 seats on 4th day of filing of nominations in the state on Thursday. And in Chhattisgarh, Home Minister Rajnath Singh says that the country will be free from Naxalism in the next 3 to 5 years. Addressing people in Raipur on Thursday, he said that Naxalism is going through its last phase. This problem has been reduced from 90 districts to only 10 or 11. The Home Minister said earlier that more security personnel used to get killed in fight with the Maoists, but now casualties on the rebel sides are more, with the forces having an upper hand. Singh also appealed to the Maoists that they should leave the path of violence and surrender. Benefits of rehabilitation policy will be given to the surrendered Maoists, he said.
पहले 90 जिलों में था, सिमट कर 9 जिलों में रह गए। ज्यादा समय नहीं लगेगा कि 3 से 5 साल के अंदर नक्सलवाद भी हिंदुस्तान की धरती से समाप्त होकर गए। और मैं अपील करना चाहता हूं, आज भी ऐसे सारे लोग हथियार छोड़कर समर्पण करें, उनके पुनर्वास की व्यवस्था सरकार करे। हम लोग किसी की जिंदगी नहीं लेना चाहते।
And Rajnath Singh also addressed several rallies ahead of the second phase of polls in Chhattisgarh on 20th of November. Addressing rallies in Saraipali and Sarangarh, Singh said the Congress and other opposition parties were grappling with a credibility crisis in poll-bound state, with the people losing faith in them. He also addressed rallies in Pratappur and Kota constituencies.
यही छत्तीसगढ़, मुझे याद है 15 साल, 100 में 36 घर थे, यहां पर बिजली पहुंची। पूरा गांव की तो बात छोड़ दीजिए, गांव के गांव साफ। डॉक्टर रमन सिंह को बधाई देना चाहता हूं बहनों भाइयों कि आज 98% घरों में बिजली पहुंचाने का काम यदि किसी मुख्यमंत्री ने किया है तो डॉक्टर रमन सिंह ने किया है।
And Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath addressed several rallies in Chhattisgarh on Thursday. In an address, he said that after the BJP came to power in 2003, the Raman Singh government created a milestone in development and worked for the welfare of farmers, youth and all sections of society. He was campaigning for BJP candidate from Takhatpur, Harshita Pandey, ahead of the second phase of polls in the state on 20th of November. The Congress party has fielded Rashmi Singh from the seat.
मोदी जी कहते हैं, डॉक्टर रमन सिंह भी कहते हैं, हम 100 रुपया भेजेंगे, ये 100 रुपया गरीब के खाते में जाएगा। ये 100 रुपया गरीब के खाते से कोई नहीं उठा सकता। ये 100 रुपया गरीब के खाते में जाएगा। गरीब के हक में कोई डकैती डालने का कार्य करेगा, उसकी जगह जेल होगी।
News from poll-bound Telangana, and the BJP released its third list of 20 candidates for the Telangana Assembly polls on Thursday. The party, which is going it alone in the 7th of December elections to the 119-member Assembly, had earlier released two lists of 66 candidates. Party chief Amit Shah had kicked off the party's campaign for the Telangana polls on 15th of September at Mehboob and had addressed another rally at Karimnagar last month. The BJP had 5 MLAs in the recently dissolved state assembly, and all of them have been re-nominated. And staying with Telangana, the police of the state is adopting a multi-pronged strategy to check any Maoist threat in the districts bordering Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. The strategy is aimed to thwart any desperate action by the outlawed CPI Maoists ahead of the assembly polls in the state on 7th of December. Police officials claim that the Maoists may send their action teams in some areas to create a trouble and sensation, as they have been almost decimated in Telangana. Security has been already beefed up in the state for electioneering, and the combing operations have also been stepped up and roads have been cleared. Counter-action teams are also on the move. Central Armed Police Forces, State Forces and the Greyhounds, the elite anti-Naxal force, have also been deployed to ensure free and fair elections. Security cover has also been provided to VIPs and politicians who are campaigning. 13 of the 119 assembly segments have been identified as sensitive to left-wing extremism, where polling will be held between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. Now, moving on to poll-bound Mizoram, the Election Commission has appointed Ashish Kundra as the new Chief Electoral Officer of the state. A 1996 batch IS officer, Ashish Kundra replaces SP Shashank with immediate effect. The decision to replace Shashank was taken after days of statewide protests by the civil society groups against him. The protests were over the transfer of a state's principal secretary on 2nd of November after Shashank claimed that he had interfered in the electoral process. The civil society groups also protested against Shashank's decision to allow voting by Bru tribals lodged in Tripura camps and not in their respective constituencies in Mizoram. On 5th of November, Chief Minister Lal Thanawala wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi demanding Shashank's removal. Protests outside Shashank's office in Aizawl were called off 2 days later after Shashank was summoned to Delhi last week. And now an update on the severe cyclonic storm Gaja, which has crossed the Tamil Nadu coast with the wind speeds gusting up to 120 km per hour. According to the Tamil Nadu State Disaster Management Authority, as many as 76,290 people were evacuated from low-lying areas and sheltered at over 300 relief centers. The severe cyclonic storm is very likely to move early westwards and weaken gradually into a cyclonic storm during the next few hours. And during the cyclone's landfall, rains lashed Nagapattinam and Thanjavur, uprooting trees in several regions. A holiday has been declared for educational institutions in Nagapattinam. Electricity supply was also disconnected in view of the cyclone's landfall. 4 teams, each of NDRF personnel, have been already deployed in Nagapattinam district, where 2 teams of the State Disaster Response Force in Kudlor district have also been deployed. And in Breakfast News, time for a very short break here. We'll be right back with more news. First up, the topic of vision document for a digital Northeast by the year 2022.
See, the vision document largely integrate all the components of Digital India program of the Government of India, with special focus on certain aspects keeping into the diversity of Northeast and the constraint which exists in Northeast.
The centre made an announcement that Northeast needs immediately 3 C's. C means ABC, C's. Communication, connectivity and commerce. And for all these 3 C's, the digitalization in today's world is very important.
Now the topic of adventure tourism.
It is easier to experience adventure tourism in India. It is cheaper and economical to have these type of activities, and the reassurance, the fact that you have a variety of experiences that you can get in a limited, a 2-week holiday or a 3-week holiday.
Of late, a couple of insurance companies have moved forward, and now these insurance are available.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Welcome back after the break. The Women and Child Development Ministry announced that the government will give employers the salaries for 7 of the 26 weeks of maternity leave for women earning more than 15,000 rupees a month. The order will cover the government as well as private sector employees. The ministry said that it has decided to utilize the funds from the labour welfare cess to pay the employers. The announcement comes in the wake of complaints that many companies were reluctant to hire pregnant women after maternity leave was extended from 12 to 26 weeks, and some were even firing women employees. Remember, maternity leave was extended from 12 weeks to 26 weeks last year. On to some other news. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu delivered the Lakshman Rao Inamdar Memorial Lecture in Mumbai University on Thursday. In his address, Vice President Naidu called for the revamp of laws governing cooperative sector so that it becomes a viable and vibrant enterprise in the present scenario. He emphasized on the need to address the challenges such as politicization and bureaucratic control of cooperatives. He said that a lack of awareness, vagaries of monsoon, lack of access to the market and storage facilities is forcing people to migrate from rural areas to urban areas. And to tackle these challenges, Naidu called on the cooperative sector to play a key role in strengthening rural economy and also help the farmers raise their income.
The time has come to bring the requisite changes in the relevant laws governing cooperative sector in the context of changing techno-economic and business scenario to make the cooperatives viable and vibrant enterprises. At the same time, we have to focus enough attention on agriculture and rural development. Even today, 56% of the people are depending on agriculture. And the best method in agriculture, according to me, is the cooperative strengthening of the cooperative movement. This has to be understood by all, including the planners.
And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also presented the Jamna Lal Bajaj Awards in Mumbai on Thursday. And addressing the gathering, Vice President Naidu said that every citizen must become an agent for change and contribute towards building a more empathetic and caring society. He said it is important for every individual to discharge his or her responsibility towards the society and the country at large. The Vice President also called for a revamp of a school curriculum and making it mandatory for children to take part in social service activities so as to inculcate values among them. The awards are given to 4 eminent citizens for making outstanding contribution in the fields of environment, disaster mitigation, women and children's welfare, and the promotion of peace and non-violence.
Concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we must preserve it, we must enrich it, we must propagate it. We should not only profess it but also practice it. That is the way to take the country and to take the culture, to take the tradition forward. I am very happy that this foundation is doing that work. My compliments to them. And also what we should do is that we should take care of the women's empowerment. They are 50% of our population. We should focus enough on taking care of the woman. We should end all gender discrimination whatsoever.
On to some other news, India's exports saw a considerable rise in the month of October. The exports rose by 17.86% to 26.98 billion in October, as engineering goods, pharmaceutical and chemical shipments picked up pace. In September, the exports had declined for the first time this financial year by 2.15%, and imports during October also rose by 17.62% to $44.11 billion. This has led to the widening of trade deficit to $17.13 billion. Meanwhile, Fitch has retained India's sovereign rating at BBB, the lowest investment grade with a stable outlook, stating that its strong growth outlook continues to stand out among peers. Fitch put the real GDP growth in the current financial year at 7.8%, up from 6.7% in 2017-18. On the international news now, British Prime Minister Theresa May battled to salvage a draft of Brexit deal and her political future on Thursday as ministers resigned and members of her own party plotted to oust her. The government unveiled its long-awaited draft withdrawal agreement on Wednesday, which sets the terms of the UK's departure from the EU, over 585 pages. However, May faced a hostile parliament and saw 4 ministers, including a British Secretary Dominic Raab, quit the government. However, she vowed to fight for her deal with the European Union. The draft deal aims to ensure a smooth divorce from the European Union after more than 4 decades of membership and outlines a transition period for both sides to adjust to the break. May faces the much more perilous struggle of getting Parliament to approve the deal. European Union leaders will also meet on 25th of November to endorse the divorce deal.
Yes, difficult and sometimes uncomfortable decisions have had to be made. I understand fully that there are some who are unhappy with those compromises. But this deal delivers what people voted for, and it is in the national interest. And we can only secure it if we unite behind the agreement reached in Cabinet yesterday. If we do not move forward with that agreement, nobody can know for sure the consequences that will follow. It would be to take a path of deep and grave uncertainty when the British people just want us to get on with it.
And in Sri Lanka, one MP was hospitalized and another accused of brandishing a knife during an all-out brawl on the floor of Sri Lanka's parliament. Now, this is the latest escalation of the political turmoil that has left the country without an agreed prime minister or cabinet. The session on Thursday morning was abandoned after supporters of Mahinda Rajapaksa, the disputed prime minister, rushed at the parliament speaker, Karu Jayasuriya. Jayasuriya was defended by the MPs loyal to Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was dismissed from the prime ministership a fortnight ago. More than 3 dozen MPs pushed and jostled each other for several minutes on the floor. The president's decision last month to sack Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and replace him with the former leader Rajapaksa has led to weeks of turmoil. The incident comes a day after a motion of no confidence was passed over Rajapaksa. Let's get you all the sporting action now. Shuttlers Kidambi Srikanth and Samir Verma have advanced to the quarterfinals of the men's singles of the Hong Kong Open World Tour Super 500 tournament. Fourth-seeded Srikanth, who had claimed a silver medal at this year's Commonwealth Games, defeated fellow Indian HS Pranoy in a thrilling match. Srikanth will face either a Japanese or a Thai challenger next. Samir qualified for the quarterfinals after his opponent, Olympic champion Chen Long, pulled out of the competition due to an injury. However, Olympic silver medalist PV Sindhu lost to her South Korean challenger in the pre-quarterfinals of the women's singles category. Meanwhile, the mixed doubles pair of Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Ashwini Ponappa also lost to their Chinese Taipei challenger team. And in cricket, India beat Ireland by 52 runs to enter the semi-finals of the ICC Women's World T20 in a Group League encounter in Guyana yesterday. After posting 145 runs for the loss of 6 wickets, Indian spinners spun a web around Ireland batting lineup to restrict them to 93 for 8 in their allotted 20 overs and guide India to a comprehensive 52-run win at the Providence Stadium. And chasing a target of 146 runs, Ireland could only make 93 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their stipulated 20 overs. For India, Radha Yadav picked up 3 wickets for 25 in 4 overs. And with a third win, India with 6 points has been assured of the last 4 spot along with Australia. And that's the wrap on this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching and have a great day ahead.